But anyway, here's our president on he's
tyranny?
Speaking. Yes, on tyranny. He's speaking at the Ohio State University at their commencement, and it sounded a little something like this.
Grown up, hearing voices that incessantly warn of government as nothing more than some separate, sinister entity that's at the root of all our problems.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these same voices also do their best to gum up the works. They'll warn that tyranny is always lurking just around the corner.
Jeez.
You should reject these voices.
Oh.
Because what they suggest is that our brave and creative and unique experiment in self-rule is somehow just a sham.
Okay, stop for a second. Can you imagine? Okay, first of all, this is exactly what a tyrant would say.
Yes.
I mean, I hate to point it out, but that's exactly what a tyrant would say. You should always be on. I mean, a non-tyrant would say you should always be on guard. Mm-hmm. You should always be in guard,
which is what our founders said.
Yes, and every president has said that.
It has nothing to do with our amazing experiment, which we talk about all the time, and he rejects all the time.
Right.
It has to do with the fact that we're supposed to be on guard for the government getting bigger and becoming tyrannical.
Now, I would just like to point out to all of the lefties, they have abandoned their post, and that's good because they were never really at that post anyway. As I pointed out in the NRA speech on Friday, what they've done is they've took Martin Luther King. They took this great movement of love and made it into free love and free sex. That had nothing to do with freedom and had everything to do with sex, not love. Martin Luther King was about freedom and love, God's love. That's what that whole thing was about. But the media and those who are in the elite, they went and they took it and made it about the naked hippies. Mm-hmm. And so we have missed the entire real lesson and the power of the force that actually changed things. You know, it's amazing that this president, think about how much they have abandoned their position as civil rights leaders. This president is saying, you know, government tyranny. Excuse me? Excuse me? Aren't you the one that is always talking about how the police act stupidly? What are they part? Are they part of the Cub Scouts? That's the government, my friend. That's the government. Who's always making it out to be that the soldiers are bad? Making that our government is always on the wrong side in Israel and every place else.
How many times did he go to the Middle East and say, and France and Germany and everywhere else around the world, everywhere like such as.
And said we're arrogant.
Said we made all these mistakes. He kept saying that we've done this and we've done that and we've been the aggressor in so many of these things.
Who are you talking about? See, what he's talking about here is not the government. As long as he is in charge, it's not the government. Mm-hmm. But if anybody else is in charge, then the government is arrogant, then the country. But this fits nicely into what he was saying to Mexicans. He was telling Mexicans that it is our drug culture that wants all of these drugs, that has caused all of the death. Anybody who has a gun here in America, it's our gun culture that has caused any of the death. Not Holdren. Or not Holdren, but Holder, Eric Holder, running guns. Had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, he blamed Americans for the drug trade, and then he said we also recognize that most of the guns that cause gun violence come from the United States. First of all, that's not true. That's a flat-out lie. It's most of the registered guns happen to be here, but most of them aren't registered. And they can't track them, and so they don't know where they come from.
Well, we know a lot of them came right directly from the Attorney General's office.
And some of them came directly from the Attorney General's office,
so
which he also
look at how
ignored.
Look at what he has done. Do not listen to the voices who don't warn you about your freedom is valuable, that your freedom is coveted by someone else. This guy is amazing. In all of human history, freedom, real freedom, has been a blip, just a blip in time. It's a mistake of history, really. When you look at it all through history, if you would look at this one little aberration, you would say that's a mistake. That's how rare freedom is. And he says, don't worry about that. Well, may I ask you, Mr. President, wasn't it government tyranny that enslaved the African Americans? It was government tyranny Because that's why you say you can't listen to the founders. Because they put together a whole system of tyranny. That's what your people say. The whole system is tyrannical. So how can you possibly say, don't listen to those voices? Have you not learned what you're trying to even teach? How about the Indians, the Native Americans, who you are out pumping fists with all the time, who you are out trying to say, let me put on the headdress because I look cool in the headdress. Don't I look like, because I'm like you. I'm you. I'm me smoking peace pipe. You parade with the Native Americans, and you are such a fraud. You parade around, and yet you say government is not tyrannical. Is that exactly what you tell people on the Native American Indian reservations, that the government was that wasn't tyranny? What was it, Mr. President? Don't listen to the voices that will tell you the government can become tyrannical.
It seems like the victims of government tyranny seem to be the most receptive to their outreach now. When the government goes to African Americans and says, don't worry, we're going to help you this time, they seem to be so receptive.
So receptive. And
Why?
He is the same voice. He is exactly the same voice. I mean, he said in Jeremiah Wright's church, it was Jeremiah Wright teaching that the government wasn't tyrannical? Because I've listened to all of his speeches.
That's a great point. It's so tyrannical, they're inventing diseases to kill certain races.
Right. It is the government, to him. You talk about me being a conspiracy theory. They invented AIDS, according to your pastor. They invented AIDS. I'm the conspiracy freak, and they're not tyrannical. Wow, that's a new position for you. We should go back and ask the Japanese Americans. We should go ask the Japanese Americans that lived on the Pacific Rim back in World War II, that were scooped up and put in internment camps. This is such an easy thing to win, America. If we stop talking, if we stop thinking that we are in the position that we have always held. We don't hold that position anymore, gang. And here's the amazing thing. Those so-called, would you please, somebody find the speech from Israel where I talked about how the civil rights leaders had become a joke. It's a perverted joke. This is exactly it. That's what I was talking about when I was in Israel. And if we don't occupy that space, believe me, they'll just keep occupying it. You can't occupy both spaces. You can't be the man and also stand up against the man. What kind of schizophrenic are you? It's amazing. Stu, would you do me a favor? Would you go through all of Jeremiah Wright's all of his talks and point out all of the places where the government is tyrannical?
Sure.
Put people on from the Blaze or whoever you need. Find all of the places where the president and those around him. Get Van Jones. Van Jones says that the administration was not only killing people overseas, but he says we're poisoning the drinking water.
Yeah, and then give them the wealth. He talks about
give them the wealth because we stole it. Who's we? The government. The government stole the wealth. If the government didn't steal the wealth, then what use was this government? Because it didn't stop anybody. But we know the truth, as I showed with the gun from Saturday night, Chief Kicking Bear's gun from Wounded Knee. Wounded Knee, one of the most shameful points in American history that has all been but covered up, except for those who used to stand for civil rights. Don't you see, America, the opportunity you have? This is the civil rights movement. It is. And you have found yourself in the leadership position of the civil rights movement because no one else will pick it up. Now, I don't know why. My guess is, as I spoke about in the speech on Saturday at the NRA, my guess is because we look at the 1960s as radical hippies. But that's not what that movement was. It's not. That movement, that was the fringes of it. I'm going to explain, I'm going to dissect the 1960s and show you what happened in the 1960s and then what's happening today and where you fit in it. You have to choose. Where do you fit in this? I'll show you the diagram of the 60s and today, tonight at 5 o'clock. But when you look at this and you see it, gang, it's really quite clear. The Japanese, the Native Americans, the African Americans, they'd sure be surprised that this government isn't tyrannical. They'd be surprised to hear that, especially from an African-American president. Wow, that's amazing. Tell me that this government isn't keeping you down with the inner city minorities. Tell me it's not keeping you in place. Your own leaders, the crazy crackpot self-appointed leaders like Jesse Jackson, like Jeremiah Wright. Jeremiah Wright, he talks about how the CIA started the drug culture to kill off the African American, to get them hooked on drugs, that all drugs in the inner city, that's a CIA operation. That's actually what people like Jeremiah Wright teach. Wouldn't that be some form of tyranny that you shouldn't worry about?
The government's lied. The government lied about inventing the HIV virus as a means of genocide against people of color.
Listen to that guy for 20 years.
20 years. And now this man says, don't listen. Listen to me. One of the reasons why I joined my church, one of the reasons why I investigated my church is because no one would say, take my word for it. No one. Book of Mormon doesn't even say that. Book of Mormon says, take it to God. Do your own homework, take it to God. Ask him. I don't believe anybody who says, trust me. I never have. I trust somebody who says, hey, understand what you have is valuable, and you should protect that. Understand what you have was given to you by God, and only you are responsible for protecting it. I listen to somebody who will say, don't take my word for it. Find out yourself. Do your own history. Look it up. You should know this, and they're all good. I don't think the government is tyrannical. I think the government has done horrible things. I think the government continues to do horrible things. I think it was doing horrible things under George W. Bush. And we have to minimize those things as much as we can because people are always involved. But we need to get better every time.
And besides, nobody's saying it is. The Second Amendment is a safeguard against it ever becoming.
Yeah. I'm not saying that they're tyrants now. They're on the path to tyrants.
To deterrence.
But they're on the same path that FDR was on when he put the Japanese in internment camps. He's on the same path that Andrew Jackson was on when he said manifest destiny, slaughter all the Indians. He's on the same path as those, not Ben Franklin, not George Washington, not Sam Adams, not John Adams. He's on the same path of those who said, slavery's fine, dude. Slavery's fine. No, sir. We are not living under tyrants now, but you're on that path of becoming a tyrant. And why would anyone listen to someone in power saying, hey, by the way, don't even listen to those people. I got you, baby. I got you. I'll protect you. And by the way, I just want you to give up a few more freedoms for me because I'm going to take care of everything you need. And in fact, if you don't believe me, would you like some free stuff? Here, have some candy, have some cake. Can I let me hold the chair out for you? Let me just take care of you. You are such a special person. Oh my gosh. Are you really that stupid? College students, are you really this stupid?